Najee Harris was the only Pittsburgh Steelers player who was not at minicamp yesterday. Cam Hayward showed up, plenty of action going on. It was an excused absence from Mike Tomlin, but obviously everybody wants to talk about the contract situation and where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand. And is this Najee holding out for other reasons? Should there be concerns? Who takes advantage during his absence? He's expected to be there today. Like I said, Mike Tomlin said that this is excused and that there's really nothing else to talk about here. Are you concerned that Najee was not at practice yesterday? And do you have any thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, I was concerned for a minute because this happened beginning of OTAs too. Because I was sitting there, someone says to me like, "Hey, you haven't seen Najee yet, have you?" And I was like, "No, now that you mention it, I haven't." And I kept trying to look for. There's a huge scrum of receivers and running backs and quarterbacks doing like ball security drills, so it was almost impossible to pick anyone out. And I still couldn't see him. And they started doing team drills, still couldn't see him. And I expected him to do what he did at the beginning of OTAs and run out an hour into practice. But he didn't. I'm not concerned. I think if this drags out any longer, maybe I would start to be concerned. I think, I talked about this last week. I think, George Pickens showing up to the last 1 or 2 days, I think, of OTAs was that. Yeah. I can't remember if he was here for multiple days, but he was gone for a little while too. Cam Hayward coming back as well. Like there were a bunch of guys who hadn't been there before. Cordell Patterson, another name. But like there were guys who weren't there for a lot of OTAs that did show up today. And I think you hear from them and it's kind of I felt the responsibility to be here. I think, I think the players can feel that there is something special to this team. They believe in what this team can accomplish, and to them, maybe it's only symbolic, but showing up for these types of practices, showing up, getting a little bit of extra work in, just showing a commitment to the team, I think matters to a lot of these guys. So
yes, I
think, if you're a real believer in that, if you think that that's concerning that Najee didn't kind of participate in that same thing, I would be concerned about it. I'm not that concerned about it. I don't really question Najee's commitment to the team at all. I just think, I think the only question is, will missing 1 or 2 more practices, 3 more practices, however many he does miss over the coming week, how much does that affect, his knowledge of the offense? Yes. Like I think that's really literally your only concern is how many physical reps is Najee getting in this new system? How well is he going to know it? Because I think he's also doing a lot more in the system too. Like he's not just taking straight handoffs up the middle. Like he's splitting out a little bit, he's like playing a little bit of receiver. So like there's a little bit more on his plate right now. I think Najee's a smart guy. I'm not necessarily concerned. I'm just kind of running through what possibly could happen, but I'm still not very concerned. I expect him to show up today. I expect him to be fine. I expect him to be Najee. And I think we might be able to move past this pretty quickly, but there are some concerns if this does drag out a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think I sit in the same boat. I'm not necessarily concerned. I don't think it's an issue. I think there are some issues that this drags on to. You know what I mean? You're going to get a portion of the fan base that hears that Najee's not at minicamp yesterday and is upset about it. And, I don't think guys need to talk all the time. I don't think that you need to address certain situations, but we won't as a group because Najee does not talk to the media. He's very anti talking to the media, and we won't understand his commitment or where he stands about the contract situation or really any of that for another month, at least until we're in training camp and he potentially has to talk. But even then, I don't think that it's mandated for him to talk. So it might be until the regular season that we hear where Najee stands with the whole situation. That's going to cause some lingering drama. That's going to get guys that overreact on the radio. That's going to get fans that just simply have a bad taste in their mouth for Najee. You don't want that. That's the only concern I think I have is your appearance to the fan base, where you stand with these guys, because it's important. We were Najee defenders a lot last season. We sat here time after time after time talking about how Najee Harris is better than his stats and how he's a very quality running back. He should be the starter. He's the guy in Pittsburgh. We got to stop bagging on Najee Harris because he's explosive and he does all these great things and you need him in Pittsburgh. I feel like there's a chance that we're going to have to do that again because he doesn't have the the strong camaraderie with the fan base, and I think he's got to begin to develop that. And again, I think that's more of like a Najee versus the media thing than Najee versus the fan base. But that's how you get across to the media. Like I think he gained a lot of fans last year when he went up to the podium and called out everybody for talking crap on Matt Canada and the offense. I think there were a lot of people in that fan base that were like, look, I respect that. I like that. And I think with this situation, that needs to be addressed again, especially with him missing minicamp, because you're going to start having a story built around you that isn't real. And, people will push it. And that's not a good thing, because that's going to lead to people like us having to defend Najee again this season, when that shouldn't be the case. It should just be his work on the field. And we should kind of be telling it in a Najee is trying to earn a contract type of light, instead of Najee is upset that he doesn't have a contract type of light.
Yeah. And I think you make a good point of just like Najee doesn't want to deal with this stuff either. Like, talk about how Najee doesn't like interacting with the media. He has to interact with the media more, the more that this kind of stuff comes up. So I think it's unfortunate for him. I don't think it's a situation that he wants to be in. So I think that's the, and like this drama or whatever that we're talking about, like, I think you made a great point that it's kind of him versus the media or him versus fans. It's not really anyone in that locker room who has a problem with anything that he's doing, but
nope.
Like I said, like this stuff affects him. He sees it. Najee acknowledges it sometimes too. He understands the narratives that are out there about him. He understands that some people don't like him for whatever reason. And I think last year he worked really hard to try to, be a leader, to step up, to try to, win back some of the fan base, I guess, in a certain way, in addition to kind of make some progress in his own career and make some progress in his progression as a leader. But I think that was also a kind of a way to kind of bridge the gap between him and, the media and fans. I think he was trying to show that he was a really serious person, that he was a really serious football player, that he was all in on the team. And I don't know, at a certain point, it seemed like there was no winning with him.
Yes.
Everyone was going to be mad at him for something. And so I think that's another thing that you could be concerned about is Najee, just kind of done with trying to bridge that gap. Is he just kind of over even putting in the effort? Again, we won't really know, because we're not going to be able to talk to him for another month, probably. I'd be really stunned if he shows up today and is all eager to speak to the media and
no chance.
All eager to spill the beans on what his contract situation is like. So I think we're just going to have another month and a half of endless Najee Harris speculation and takes, and it's not going to be any fun for anyone. I don't know anyone who enjoys talking about Najee Harris like this.
No, I agree. I think that's exactly it. It's good for headlines, I guess. It's great for interactions. It's good to get people riled up. For people who just want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and where they stand. And, I'm all for a good headline. I'm all for a good speculation. I'm all for a good, let's get the people fired up, because I'm fired up. I'm not necessarily about that when it comes to guys in the locker room who, this has nothing to do with football. It just strictly has to do with everything else. And that's the part of it where I'm just like, all right, let's just, let's not make this worse than it is, because it just gets carried away. Nobody enjoys it. And that's kind of where we stand. I don't think it'll change. Just like you said, I think we'll be in this boat for a while. And I hope that there are enough people that are able to just view Najee as a football player, because I think that's what it comes down to. Is like, it's the same thing with everybody else. Like, who cares? Who cares about it was the George Pickens drama last year and the so on and so forth. Like, this is a new season. Let's just talk football. And when we have to talk other things, we will. But for right now, let's just talk football. And I think that's a place to be. But I don't know if that's where we're going to stay. And heading into the down period, man.
Right. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
There's going to be some crazy stuff said about Najee. Like the combination of, a couple absences here or there, the contract situation.
Yep.
What he said last year about, running backs and the market value for running backs.
And the media. And then guys getting signed, which he did not.
Yeah. There are going to be no shortage of fantastic Najee takes floating around out there over the month of July. So everyone can really look forward to that. While there's no football, we get to talk about that.
Yeah. One day I'm going to just go up to him in the locker room and be like, hey, pal, look it. I might not always sit here and defend you, but a lot of times, man, we try. Okay. So you could not like a lot of people here. I'm trying, pal. We're trying as hard as we can. That guy over there, Stephen Thompson, he's tried harder than me. So let's calm it down. Yeah. It's gonna be a wild off season.